a very warm welcome, and I can say that truly because it is very warm. It's getting quite warm here in Thailand now. So this is our Wheel and Anchor webinar on Liveaway's Koh Samui. That's a program we're going to be delivering, that we're going to be taking everybody who'd like to join us in January of next year. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to share with you all of what I know and what we've designed for this program. So I say welcome to everyone because there's lots of people joining now, so I can't keep up with everybody's name. But if you do have a question during our webinar, then please just type in the chat box, and one of my colleagues will either respond right away or I'll get to the questions when we do the Q&A towards the end of the webinar. If you have been on some of our webinars before, you can take a 3-minute timeout while I explain what Wheel and Anchor is all about for those who are new. We are a travel community. And so when I started this venture a few years back, together with my colleagues, we decided that I decided from 30 years of having been in the travel business and taking Canadians to all kinds of places around the world, that when people who are true travelers travel together, and when we say travelers, you might have traveled a lot or maybe not so much, but what we all have in common is a like-minded view of exploration of the world, really experiencing the culture. It's more than just about, sitting in the bus and, this is on the left and that is on the right. And it's that experience of traveling with other people who do care about the culture and the people that makes us as a community a bit different. And I have a mission for everybody, all of our members, which is to be well-traveled and well-connected. And as I've said time and time again, well-traveled isn't just saying I've been there and ticking it off the bucket list. It's the difference between having just passed through a place and really experienced it. And as far as being well-connected is concerned, when you meet people that you share a common bond with, and that's either your fellow travelers or the locals that you might meet along the way, you have a personal touch point that gives you a bit of a different context for your experience of that place. And so creating those kinds of connections is really part of the mission, because let's face it, life is best when you are connected to other people. So that's what we're about at Wheel and Anchor. Joining me today in the background so my name's Gordon, for those of you who haven't met me before, and I know some of you I have not had a chance to meet in person. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. I'm joined by Joel Curry. He does the technical support for us, and he's my co-founder. And Paula Zarnik. Many of you will have spoken to Paula on the phone. She's our senior trip specialist and the one that makes sure that everybody gets booked on the trip that they want to go on. So that is our core team. So we're all here on the webinar today. And our plan is really to help you as people that are interested in doing something different next winter, right? That's what a Liveaway is about thinking a bit out of the box where you might want to go. I'm going to take you on a journey, and we're going to look at Koh Samui, Thailand. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the country in general. I'm going to tell you about where we're planning to stay and some of the great things that we're going to do along the way. So that is the plan. And let's get started. First of all, this Liveaways concept is brand new. And this is the first of a series of Liveaways that we're going to be doing. And so why a Liveaway? Well, for anybody that spent time living abroad, and when I say abroad, I mean really outside of North America, more than just a few days or a week or so, your relationship with that place is profoundly different. You have ever noticed that you've been to a place and, you've spent a longer period of time there, people there, and then you read something in the newspaper or you hear it on TV, and all of a sudden you're like, it's like a part of you. And so that's what a Liveaway is giving you the experience of being a part of a place. And so many of us have spent time in the winter months visiting, the warmer climates south of the border, the US and Mexico and all the rest of it, because it's easy and predictable. But let's face it, nowadays, travel is probably not going to be the same as it was before once we get through this pandemic. And so we thought, let's give people the opportunity to go to some place and get away from the cold a little bit, but that will give you a different experience and a different sense of culture and people and all those great things. So, before you book that trip that you might ordinarily go down to Mexico for a week or two, or Costa Rica. All wonderful places, by the way. But you might want to try something a little bit different. And that's what we thought. And we've had resounding feedback since we introduced the idea a few months back. And finally, when you go on a longer holiday, you have the chance to do stuff at your own pace, right? You're not beholden to somebody else's schedule. You might just want to hang around on the beach one day and curl up over a book because you have time. And so this enables us, this is a way for us to offer a semi-curated program, which means we give you lots of great stuff to do. You can do all of it, none of it, some of it. It's really up to you. And that's the real benefit of this Liveaway concept. So let's talk for a minute about Thailand. So I'm going to give you an overview of the whole program, and we're going to start first of all with a very short geography lesson. Thailand is a country, you can see it here where it's positioned in Southeast Asia. It's about half the size of the province of Ontario. So geographically speaking, it's relatively small, although Ontario is quite large compared to most countries. But 70 million people live in Thailand. So there's twice as many Thais as there are Canadians. So you get some sense of that. But the majority of the Thailand landmass is up here in the north, which is largely agricultural areas and a lot of jungle and forest and so on and so forth. But down in the south, that's where Thailand becomes very narrow. This is where you'll find the real tourist, the sun destinations, because of the year-round tropical weather. And so we have, of course, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam to the north of Thailand, and down to the south, it's Malaysia. And on the west side of the country, we have the Andaman Sea, which is part of the Indian Ocean. And on the east side, the body of water is the Gulf of Thailand. And that's a very important fact, because some people have asked me about Thailand. They said, there was a tsunami there back in 2001. And yes, there was, but it was in Phuket. It was on the Andaman Sea, because there is the Ring of Fire, the chain of volcanoes that stretches all the way down through Indonesia and down into Australia. And that's where there's volcanic activity that causes earthquakes and tidal waves and so on and so forth. But on the Gulf of Thailand, we have none of that. And the other big thing that's important to note about the Gulf of Thailand is you can see that where the little gold symbol is, the wheel and anchor logo, is where Koh Samui is. And we are tucked in there so that the cyclones and the typhoons and all these major storms that you hear about in the Philippines, they seldom ever get over to Thailand. In fact, maybe once in the last 50 years did they see anything remotely close to a hurricane. So it's a pretty safe and comfy place to be. Let's take a little more zoomed in map of Koh Samui and Thailand. So on the left, on the inset, you can see where it is in relation to Bangkok, the capital. We're about 600 kilometers due south. And Koh Samui itself is, for those of you that can compare to Caribbean islands, it's a little bit smaller than Antigua. So it's not a super big island. You can drive all the way around in probably about an hour and a half. And the north and the east coasts are where most of the action happens. So that's kind of the beauty of Koh Samui is that it's quite developed in sort of half the island, but the other part of the island is still have beautiful green jungles and even some plantations. We're going to see some of those. And so there's quite a juxtaposition of things going on this island. And another interesting fact, the airport was only built on the island in 1989, if you can imagine that. So it's been just over 30 years. And this island has seen an incredible transformation from being essentially like fishermen's villages and coconut groves to now being one of the preeminent sun destinations in all of Southeast Asia. You have everything here from quaint little bungalows along the beach to multi-million-dollar villas. Koh Samui has really a little bit of everything. And you can see we're situated there. We're going to be based right up there in the heart of all the action, but in a very quiet part of town. And I'll get to that in just a second. So Now that the geography lesson is over, let's take a quick look at our accommodations and where we're going to be staying. And so I hunted around the island, and that's the benefit of having been here all this time, is that I could really go in depth. And needless to say, I know Koh Samui quite well because I'm on the island next door. And I found this wonderful, wonderful sort of hotel apartment complex, which is, as I say, it's about a 10-minute walk from the beach on the north coast. And it is perfect for this kind of an experience because all the rooms are set up like mini apartments. They've got great facilities. So you really feel comfortable staying a long period of time. It's a U-shaped complex with 3 buildings, and there's about 60 suites overall. So it's not huge, but it's a good enough size that they have this wonderful big swimming pool. All of the suites look inside onto the pool. They've got their own restaurant and bar area that you can see here. They put on a wonderful breakfast every morning that you choose from an a la carte menu that rotates all the time. The breakfast, by the way, is a selection of very familiar menu options. They have lunch and dinner as well. In fact, we even have a half board option for those that don't want to go too far afield in the evening time. They've got a fitness room. They've got a spa and wellness pavilion on site. So you really have everything there. And yet there's so many great things to do within walking distance, and also within sort of a 10 or a 15-minute drive. Looking at the accommodations themselves, we have a number of different room types in here. For example, a studio like you see here, which is kind of like a junior suite. It's like a large hotel room. They're about 45 square meters, about 500 square feet. Perfect for solo travelers, but even for couples, if you like a little bit more cozy space. And all of the suites, of course, have a full kitchen, living space, decked out, flat screen TV, really comfy. Here you can see a picture, for example, of a 1-bedroom. So you've got a generous sized living area, you've got a dining room table there, a small one. You can see the kitchen there at the back. A few of the units, we have gardens, like little mini terraces out front. Wonderful large bathroom with walk-in shower. Very, very comfortable. And as you can see, elegant and chic kind of a design. Yeah, once again, a shot there with the TV and the view, and it's just super comfortable kind of accommodations. Now, not far away from all of this, here's a picture of the kitchen. I needed to show you that as well, just so you can see that the stove is in there, and the microwave and the coffee maker and the fridge. So, and what I particularly liked is that they've just done a great job in the design. Like, they're so cozy. I stayed here for a couple of nights, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So not far away is where we have our 2-bedroom accommodations. So we have studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedroom accommodations. And our 2-bedroom suites are actually little townhomes. So there are two stories, with a downstairs having a lovely living area and kitchen, and upstairs there being 2 bedrooms, each with their own ensuite. So very comfortable. And this is in a complex that is immediately next door to the main facility that we're staying in. And as I say, likewise, about 10 minutes walk away from the beach. So everything is quite close and convenient. Talking about the beach club for a second. So this is also part of the same group, the same ownership of the hotel, of all of the accommodations that we're going to be using here. And it's really one of the nicest beach clubs in this part of the island. As you can see, they've got a great, huge pool right on the beach, lots of wonderful seating, and an excellent, excellent restaurant and bar. And they have events here all the time. They've got music playing, usually a couple times a week. So this is a great sort of hangout spot for anybody that wants to just hang around on the beach. And there's again lots of time to do that. And this is part of the same facility. Right across the street from this is where our 2-bedroom deluxe apartments are. And so we have that other category available. They built this just recently, this brand new building with even more modern furnishings. Each of these suites here has again 2 bedrooms with ensuite. One of them has a full bathtub. There's a big balcony looking out over to the sea. So very, very comfortable accommodations. And these things are about effectively about 1,200 square feet of actual living space. So they're quite comfortable. So ideal, you could have 2 couples in here, or 2 solo travelers that would just like to have their own bedroom. So there's really a lot of ways that you can enjoy the accommodations. And as I say, I was really, really impressed and very happy to have found this property, because I think it fits our needs perfectly. So now, next, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we might do on a typical day in Koh Samui. So it really depends on you, because you can be sort of as active or as sort of relaxed and restful as you want. And so what you might do on a typical day, and I'm talking about, we obviously have all these excursions planned that you can take part in, and I'll talk about some of those in a second. But, you on a day where you decide not to do anything, you might take a swim in the pool. There might be a yoga class either in the facility or at one of the yoga facilities nearby. Have a late bite of breakfast. Some of the group, you might get together with some people and go and visit the Big Buddha, which is one of the big Buddhist temples that is just a little bit way down the beach. So our van will take you down there, drop you off. You can meander your way along the beach and stop at one of the great restaurants and maybe have a bit of Thai food for lunch. And then maybe you'll book in the afternoon at Panu, which is the spa facility, and have a wonderful massage. And then maybe meet some of your other friends down at the beach club for an aperitif. And then we'll take you off in our van. So we'll have a dedicated van for our group, or more than one, depending on how many of us go. And we'll go off to the Cliff, which is this amazing restaurant on the East Coast, situated on top of a cliff. And you get to see some of the beautiful views that are on the east side of the island. And then you'll be back. So that's what you might do on a quiet day. One of the other things that Thailand is quite famous for, of course, is spa and wellness. Wellness is a big theme here and growing more and more all the time. And, the center point of that, of course, is the Thai massage. So many of you probably had a Thai massage. They've become more and more ubiquitous around the world. And, in Thailand, you'll find little massage places, little massage parlors all over the place. In fact, there's more of them than we have Tim Hortons in Canada. There's so many little places where you can get a massage, and you can get one down on the beach sometimes for as little as $15. But most people, most of our members probably want something a little bit more refined, and like the facility that is right on site. And here they have a whole range of massages and body scrubs and facials and other treatments. And the good thing is that really it's a fraction of the cost of what you pay for that kind of stuff in Canada. So if you want to have a health and wellness, a spa and wellness holiday, this is a great way to do it. And I was negotiating with the hotel guys, and for anyone that buys a package of 5,000 Thai baht, that's about 200 Canadian dollars, they'll get 20% off all of the spa treatments. So for that, you can get something like 6 1-hour massages. So if you compare that to at home, it's literally about a third of the cost. So put that together with the fresh coconuts that Koh Samui is known for, and lots of fruits and vegetables and some yoga, and you have a wellness experience on top of all the other great things to do. So let's talk a bit about the excursions that we might do. And I want to first preface this by saying how we have set up the excursions for this, because when we first launched the concept back a few months ago, a lot of people said, well, there's so many great things that I want to do, but part of why I want to go away in the winter is just to relax a bit. And I don't want to feel like I'm paying for something that I'm not using. So we developed the idea of an activity credit. So basically what we did is we're going to give you a whole bunch of options. I'm going to talk about a few of those now. And then we're going to say for the basic program, you get $800 that's included in the trip price, and you can use it for whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm going to give you some of those examples now. And so if you did all of the excursions that we currently have planned, it would be about $1,200. And already we'll have 800 automatically. And if you book early, we'll give you an extra $200. So you can basically almost do everything. And if you don't use it for the excursions, you can use it at the spa. And if you don't use it at the spa, you can use it for your bar bill. And if you don't use it at your bar bill, I will happily give you the whatever's left over back. So it's a kind of a no-lose situation. And this, I think, is going to be great because it gives everybody the flexibility to do what they want to do, and not feel like they're paying for something that they're not going to, not going to take part in. So I think this is a great way to do it. I'm really keen to hear your feedback because, again, that's what we're all about. We're all about hearing from you guys and letting us know what works. So let me tell you about a few of the neat things to do in Koh Samui. First of all, first and foremost, top of the list for me, Ang Thong Marine Park. So the geology of this area, there is a whole strain of mountains that starts way down that is somewhat related to, it's like the foothills of the Ring of Fire, the mountains that I was talking about earlier, that this volcanic chain that go up the Indian Ocean side of Thailand. Over here, you've got these islands that are just about an hour speedboat ride away from Koh Samui, and they have limestone cliffs that stick out of the water. There's about 42 islands. It is one of the most picturesque places that I have ever been. It is spectacular. So we'll zoom over there in a speedboat, cruise around for the day, visiting a couple of these islands, snorkeling. It's all protected area, so you can see some beautiful fish. And maybe some coral. They have this sacred lake that's on top of one of these mountains. This is an amazing day, and it's certainly one of the highlights of what we would do. We'll also go, for example, to Pig Island. So this one is on the south coast of Koh Samui. We'll drive down there and we'll hop on a classic Thai longtail. We have a couple of trips with the longtail because it's really kind of a neat experience. You know, you've probably seen them in the movies, these boats, these long, narrow wooden boats with the long engine on a shaft riding off the back. They're a lot of fun. They're a bit loud, but they're kind of fun. And this little island has a whole bunch of native pigs. Well, they're not native, obviously they've been introduced. And so they're really quite a hit among the travelers, the tourists. And so this is one of the neat things to do and gives us a little bit of a view of the other side of Koh Samui. We'll also head up one day by private speedboat to Koh Tao. And Koh Tao, with the neighboring islet of Koh Nang Yuan, are part of 3 islands. So there's 3 islands that are together. Koh Samui is the biggest, Koh Phangan, that's where I'm sitting right now, and Koh Tao. Koh Tao is a diving mecca. It has some of the most incredible snorkeling marine life that you'll see. In fact, that little bay that you see in the picture in front of you has corals as spectacular as I've seen anywhere in the world. And so we'll head over here for a day. We'll drive around the island in our speedboat. We'll stop for a bit of swimming and snorkeling and just looking at the marine life, and we'll enjoy these beautiful beaches and have a nice lunch on board. And that will be an amazing trip. Some of the sort of shorter local things that we'll do, for example, is we'll hop on a private catamaran and we'll take in some sunset and have a nice sunset cocktail, because we're on the north side of the island, so we can't exactly see the sunset from where our beach club is, but we can just head out a little bit into the Gulf with a catamaran, and this is always a hit. I mean, who doesn't love a sunset cruise, right? Then we also have the chance to learn a little bit more about Thai cuisine. And so we will offer a couple of different culinary courses where we find a lot of one of the places that we're going to go, they grow their own food on the island. They have this wonderful plantation of all organic food. And we'll learn about, in one course, Southern Thai cuisine, which is very, very different. And so we think about Thai cuisine as Thai cuisine, pad Thai, green curry, red curry, the standard dishes, but it's actually so much more nuanced. The Southern Thai cuisine is quite well known locally for being extremely spicy, but of course for us Westerners, they take all the spice out of it, and you have some delicious, a lot of sort of seafood oriented ingredients. On the other hand, you have Northern Thai cuisine, which is from the region of Isan, north of Bangkok. Completely different altogether, different flavors, different chilies and spices. It's amazing. So we'll do a different course on each, and you'll really get a bit of an understanding on how to make all these delicious dishes, because it's actually pretty easy. And so that's some of the other things that we'll do. Of course, we couldn't come all the way to Koh Samui without taking a visit here to the island that I'm sitting right now, which is called Koh Phangan. This is going to be a fun little trip that's different than anybody else normally does, partly because this is my home and I know lots about this place, but we'll take a traditional ferry across to the so-called full moon beach. So this island is actually known, if you have children or grandchildren that have done any backpacking across Asia in the last 25 years, they probably will have ended up on this island at the so-called full moon party, which thanks to COVID is now a thing of the past. We'll explore this very, very famous place. And we'll take another long-tail cruise around the island, which is 70% forest reserve, and have a wonderful shore lunch, and then make a trip back, and then head back over to Koh Samui. So I'm particularly excited to that one because it means I get to show you my home. We'll do a trip around the temples of Samui as well. And, you know, of course, Thailand is a very Buddhist country, and they have magnificent temples. We won't even have a chance to see all of them, but we'll pick a few of the best ones. And more importantly, we'll talk to some of the monks who will give us some insight into Buddhism, which is, of course, you know, a millennia old religion, but what it means today in modern day life in Thailand, because there's still a lot of Thais who are very, very devout Buddhists. And it's fascinating to learn a little bit about that and to see some of these magnificent temples. We're going to visit a weekend market. And Thailand is famous for its markets. And you've seen pictures probably of these massive markets they have in Bangkok and around. And one of the most popular ones in Koh Samui is the Fisherman's Village Weekend Market. And people love, you can find all kinds of trinkets and souvenirs and silk scarves and little electronic devices, and it's just really neat and a lot of fun. And they have some of the best restaurants along there. And the great thing is it's only about 10-minute drive from where we're staying from our hotel. So we'll create a great afternoon and evening at Fisherman's Village to visit this market and have a wonderful dinner. And one of the other things that you might want to do for those of you who are golfers is have a round at the golf course. Koh Samui actually has 2 golf courses on it. So you can take, you don't even bother taking your golf clubs, because we'll arrange a package where you have a green fee and golf clubs and a golf cart. And you can say that you golfed in Thailand. And of course, if you're an avid golfer, you can go more than once. So we're just in the process of negotiating. The golf courses are all closed right now. Koh Samui is a bit of a quiet place at the moment, but it's going to slowly return to action by the summertime. So by then we'll have everything worked out on our golf program. So that gives you a taste of some of the activities and excursions that we're going to do. There's lots more, but I didn't want to bore you by talking for hours and hours about all the things to do. I've listed some of the other ones in our brochure, so you can get a sense of that. And as new ideas come along, we'll be adding more, because you can do, of course, as much as you like or as little as you like. But one of the other things, because I know that we have some super avid travelers, they say, oh, a whole month in one place. Oh my gosh, that's an awful long time to spend in one place. So we also will have the concept of our Liveaway weekends, where you can actually get away. And the beautiful thing about Koh Samui is that with the airport here, you have direct flights to a number of fascinating places. Bangkok, obviously, but also Singapore, Hong Kong, can all be reached by direct flight. So you might want to spend a few days in the very vibrant city of Bangkok, which is, of course, also the capital of Thailand. And they, besides being a city full of modern skyscrapers and shopping malls and all that stuff, they have some incredible historical monuments, in particular the Grand Palace and Wat Po, which you can actually see. That's the golden stupa that's on the right side of the Chao Phraya River there in the photo. And it's really worth spending a few days in Bangkok. Of course, you could do it on the way in or on the way out as well, if you decide you want to fly via Bangkok, but it's a city that really is worth spending a few days in. I always enjoy my time in Bangkok. You might also consider going to Chiang Mai, where you can also fly directly from Koh Samui. And Chiang Mai is Thailand's cultural gem up in the northwestern part of the country. They call it the Rose of the North. Here you can see the beautiful countryside. The city itself is an ancient capital. The center is a perfect square with a moat around it, and it has the most incredible temples that Thailand has to offer, and also some fantastic markets. So Chiang Mai is interesting to visit because of the cultural history and the beauty of these ancient temples, but also the green countryside around, which is full of wildlife like elephants and tigers and all kinds of different things. So it's very, very different feel than what you get in southern Thailand. And as I say, it's about an hour and 40-minute flight away from Koh Samui. You might also want to go to Khao. In fact, this is one where I'd say it's almost a must do. So we'll do a short weekend. This will be a 2-nighter away from Koh Samui. It's only a couple hours drive from the mainland, from where we take the ferry over. And the Khao National Park was made most famous when they flooded a huge reservoir to make a hydroelectric dam. And they flooded this particular area that was full of these limestone mountains. So similar to what we saw in Thong in the sea, they have it here in the park, but it's all in a very protected lake. And it is, again, I was just there in middle of December, and you drive around again on a long-tail boat and look up at these magnificent mountains. You can see, again, a very diverse amount of wildlife, tapirs and all kinds of hornbills and various other birds. And so it's Khao is just a wonderful place to visit. And it's a quick 2-day getaway. It's just only a couple hours drive away. So that's another one that we'll offer. And finally, Singapore. And so Singapore is almost as close as Bangkok. So it's about an hour and a half, an hour and 45-minute flight. And you are in the city that hardly needs any introduction. You can see the famous buildings there with the big boat along the top. And so Singapore is certainly one of Asia's, city tigers, if you will, and super, super exciting, modern, extremely clean city. I'm sure you've heard all about it. And again, it's easily reached in a short hop of a flight. So that's a few of the ideas we'll do for the weekend. We'll decide closer to the trip, depending on how many people want to go, how exactly those trips will happen, but they'll be about 3 nights in duration. So it gives you some variety to how to spend your 30 days, your month long in Thailand. Good. So from here, I just want to give you a few other details about our programs, including the pricing and how it's all going to work. Again, this is the official launch of our program today. We've had a great deal of interest in this program. So next up, Joel. There we go. So let's talk about how this program is going to work pricing wise. So we have some different categories of accommodations here. So I hope you'll find that I was actually really pleased that when this all came together, it's quite reasonably priced. So that everything that you see here is based on the land component, so everything we do on the ground. So we have 1-bedroom suites that I showed you for either 2 people, or of course you can occupy it on your own. We have studios that you can also occupy. Then we have the 2-bedroom garden homes there, which you could share with 2 couples or with 2 solo travelers. Would be perfect to stay in one of the 2-bedroom units. And then the deluxe ones, which are of course by the beach. We have a half-board supplement available for any of these programs. So in other words, if you want to have dinner in the hotel, you can just pay the one price, and then you've got dinner looked after for the entire trip. So that's how that works. And there are a couple other variations that might be possible, but that just gives you a sense. I'm not going to go through all the excursions in detail. You can read them in the brochure, but essentially includes sort of everything that I've talked about just now. So basically, most of your transportation is looked after unless you want to go someplace completely on your own, but we can help you arrange that. But for the most part, we're going to have dedicated vans for our group to bring us to all the places that we want to go. We've got breakfast every day, the activity credit. Nina will be our wonderful local guide in Koh Samui. She's a lovely, lovely lady. She's going to look after us for the whole time. And she knows Koh Samui like the back of her hand. And of course, gratuities. And we're also going to give you a SIM card. So that means you can bring your phone. We'll pop out your SIM card from home, and you'll be completely connected and have phone and data the whole time. So you never have to worry about getting lost or being able to get in touch with the host, which will be me. You'll always be connected. So that's a super handy little feature that we're doing. So the only thing we leave out, of course, is airfare. I'll talk about that in a second. Travel insurance, which in this day and age is now an absolute must. and any other meals and beverages. And, I want to talk about that. We didn't put all the dinners in the program. I mean, we have lunches and dinners in some of the excursions, but eating out in Thailand, if you look at the brochure, can be remarkably inexpensive. If you eat relatively local, sort of these, these simple Thai restaurants that are all over the place, you can have wonderful meals for, $10. You'd be stuffed to the gills. But they also have some of the most elegant fine dining restaurants that you'll find anywhere, with cuisine from all over the world. So we found it much better that, you can basically enjoy what it is that, how you like to dine. That's really how we've designed this. Talking about airfare for a second, because I know that everybody sort of wants to know what's going to happen with airfare. So typically, to get from Toronto or Vancouver, just as two examples, all the way to Koh Samui by making a hop through Hong Kong, for example, is going to be around $1,400 to $1,600, or Vancouver $1,200 to $1,400. Now, that's what the prices have been for the last number of years. However, there's still a lot of unknowns around the airline business. I think that we'll probably still arrive around those numbers. There's been a lot of talk about airfares that, going up a lot, or, with all the struggles the airline industry has. We're going to be monitoring that. And, those of you that wish to come along, by the time the spring rolls around, we'll have a much better sense of it, and we'll be able to give you some counseling on what the best way is to get there. So that's what's going to happen with that. And for anybody that decides to come along early, I thought it was really important to give you all sort of an incentive to come along. And I know that it's been and will continue to be a bit of a long, hard winter. And so if you decide you want to come along with us, and as I say, we have a lot of interest. In fact, we had, I think, about 100 people just sign up for this webinar this morning. So we are going to give a special early booking bonus of an additional $200 in activity credit. So that means you get $1,000, which means you can pretty much do almost everything that we have planned, or otherwise just enjoy it in the way of massages. Or we'll give you a spa voucher that covers that $200 worth of massages. So basically like 6 free massages. Who wouldn't want that? So that's if you book the program before the end of March. And on top of that, we're waiving the initial deposit. And listen, let's be honest, that's partly because we still live in a bit of a time of uncertainty, and we all know it's going to take a couple more months for us to figure out how this is all going to shake out as far as the pandemic and vaccines and all that stuff. And so I just wanted to make sure that, you can get yourself on the list, and you don't have to worry about paying a deposit. If you decide by the 1st of June, maybe it's not for me, maybe I'd rather go to one of the other destinations, then you'll have the flexibility to do that. So that's what we're doing today. And I know that I already see some questions about how many people can we take on this trip. And at the moment, we have quite a bit of space. I basically blocked the whole entire hotel, and then we'll see how many people sign up. But it's actually a very important point I was going to mention, because we are known for our small group trips, and I'm a very big proponent of groups of sort of 16 to 20 people. In fact, how we're doing this trip is that everything that we do excursion-wise is based on a group of around 10 people. So in other words, we do a speedboat tour off to Thong. We're going to have our own speedboat, which normally holds about 20 people, 10 people, or 9 or 11 or something around that. So everything that we do is going to be done in smaller groups. So you don't feel like you're being shuffled around in a bus. You're not even going to see a bus. But the benefit is that if we end up being 30 or 40 people, for example, is that you'll have a bigger community to have fun and enjoy meals with. And, this group might go over for Italian tonight, and that group might go to the beach, and the other ones are going to cook something at home. So, the bigger the group, the more fun that we'll have. But at the same time, we're still going to create an intimate experience by doing everything in small groups. So that's how that's going to work. Of course, we're going to go to the Q&A part. So if you have questions that haven't been answered, and I've seen a whole bunch of activity in the chat box, but I'll take a look at some of those questions now. And I do know that a few of them have come in from members who weren't able to attend with us this morning. But yeah, please type in your questions, and otherwise give us a call or drop Paula or me a note. and we'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. And I just want to go and check the questions that we have so far. All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, and in the meantime, our next webinar on our next giveaways is in 2 weeks' time. That's on Madeira. Paula will put the link in the chat box, but of course it's in our newsletter as well. So if you're interested in that, then please check that out. And yeah, let me have a look through the questions now. Okay, so yeah, tons of questions. Yeah, so let me touch on a few of these. Are there many restaurants within walking distance? Tons of restaurants within walking distance. Within walking distance, for sure, I know that there's French, Italian, Lebanese, Thai restaurants coming out the yin yang. And we will have a dedicated van for our group, and we'll have a shuttle bus as well that will take us to any other places that are close by. But you're not going to starve. You can walk to most. Let's see, is there laundry available? Yes, they'll do laundry in the hotel for a fee, just like any hotel would. But personally, you can go to laundromats where you can hand off laundry by the kilo, and it works out to about $2 a kilo. That's how I do my laundry. So laundry is absolutely no problem. Let's see, are the one bedrooms all on the first level? No, it's actually a 4-story building, and all of the suites are in different levels of the building, and there is an elevator in the building as well. So accessibility is not a problem. Mary asked about if it's safe to walk at night. This is one great thing about Thailand is that crime barely exists here. Certainly not as it relates to tourists. I mean, they have some domestic issues, but not really here. Honestly, I've left stuff on the beach and gone swimming for an hour and it's still sitting there. So, you always have to be mindful of the usual stuff, but it's completely safe. There is no issues whatsoever. That's what makes it really nice. Helen asked about the cost of dinners at nice restaurants. I put in the brochure some sample pricing of stuff. If you want to go to a really nice restaurant, you could probably pay around Toronto prices for that. But you can find also very nice restaurants that are half the price of what we would spend at home. So we're going to give you a whole list of restaurants. We will probably have like literally a daily restaurant shuttle because I know lots of restaurants. Joel used to live in Koh Samui as well. So we'll go to different places at different price points. So, not to worry. And I'm happy to give you sort of a budget of what you would expect to spend, but it really depends on you. You can eat. The cost of wine, as Eric pointed out, that's the one, if Thailand has a drawback, it's wine because they put a 350% import duty on wine. So wine is a little bit on the pricey side. So my advice is if you're a real wine drinker, first of all, I know some places where you can get bottles for relatively reasonable, but otherwise you stick in as much in duty free as you can. Judy asked as well about hiking. So actually, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to do beach walks as part of the organized activities that will be basically free because we're just going to go with our guide and our host, and we're going to walk all the different beaches around the island. But you can also do wonderful walks up in the jungle, up in the hills of Koh Samui. So all those programs will be at little or no cost because it's basically just transportation, which we already have. As far as extending for a week or two, absolutely, we can give you prices for that. So it just depends if it's before or after. We can definitely do all of that. The golf courses I mentioned already was asked. And what is another question about the wine from Penny. So you can get any kind of wine here. It's just that it is a bit of a premium to even what we pay in Canada. Although I must say in the restaurants, I would say on par, it's maybe 10% or 15% more than what you pay at home. Because let's face it, wine in our restaurants in Canada isn't cheap either. But on par, you pay a little bit more for stuff that's of more average quality in Thailand. Thailand is more a beer and cocktail country, if you will. Any other cultural restrictions that we should be aware of? Certainly when you're visiting, any kind of Buddhist shrines, and so on, you know, you have to be careful about covering your knees or your shoulders for ladies. So they do have, you know, those kind of standard restrictions. But generally in Thailand, and it's something that we would give you before the trip in our pre-trip webinar, is sort of some etiquette for Thailand. But generally speaking, they're quite used to travelers from all over the world. So you can't really do too much wrong. And believe me, of all of the people that come and visit here, Canadians are about the most polite. So good. Anyway, I think we can just about wrap up our webinar there. I'm sure there's lots more questions. We are truly happy to answer those for you. As I said, there is really, I was quite surprised to the interest in this program. So I have a good sense that we will probably ultimately sell out. And that being said, take your time. But if you think you might be interested at this point, it doesn't hurt to get your name on the list, because as I say, the deposit is waived until the 1st of June for anybody that books soon. There are a couple of good questions here. COVID impact, very good question. The good thing about Thailand is it recently was rated the 4th best country in the world for having handled COVID. We've had relatively few cases here. I think the total number in the entire country is about 7,000. And they've kept the borders closed. And they're really trying to contain the virus. And of course, they're beginning a vaccination program here as well. So we believe that by next year, we've had none on this island at all. Koh Samui had 1 or 2. So we've been quite insulated from the whole issue. And of course, we're monitoring that because we don't know what the future is going to hold. But so far, you're in about as good a place as you can be as far as COVID is concerned. Bugs and mosquitoes. Yeah, that's a good question, Mary. There are mosquitoes here. Generally, they're not a big issue because particularly in Koh Samui, where we are, is a fairly built up area. But so I wouldn't call them a big problem, but I'll be honest, some mosquitoes here do have dengue. So dengue fever is a bit of a factor. It's around, but you know, standard precautions against it. You know, it can be handled. It's not a big issue. It's not something that would keep you from going, but we would certainly let you know how to handle that problem. How's the political situation these days, Carl? Well, I could have a whole other webinar on that. The bottom line is Thailand is essentially it's a democracy, but it's run by the military. So it's actually very stable because it's run by the military, and they are not really letting anything happen, first of all. And second of all, anything that happens politically in Thailand is generally in Bangkok or in the north. The people here in the south, they kind of laugh about it because they're like, they really don't give a damn about what's happening up in Bangkok. It's life as usual. Their business is tourism. They love travelers. It's what drives the economy. And so they don't let anything faze them. So, you know, they could be having riots in Bangkok and they're not having any right now. But what happens down here in Koh Samui is completely removed from all of that. So, okay, good. Well, I hope that we've done a good job of giving you a sense of what Koh Samui is all about. Again, I'm really keen to answer any questions that you have. We'd love to have you on this trip. It's a lot of fun. This is my home. That's why I'm here. I love Thailand, but I'm excited as well to see if you want to join us on any of our other Liveaway programs or any of our trips. So on that note, I will bid you a wonderful day, and we will wrap up our webinar, and we'll look forward to catching up with you very, very soon. And yeah, keep those questions coming in via email, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Have yourselves a great day.